Well, it's January the 6th, the day after the apocalypse. Since the Georgia runoffs ended in a complete disaster, and okay, I understand David Perdue hasn't conceded. I guess neither of them have conceded yet, and there may be some after battles. But the problem is when it comes down to finding additional votes, when most of the votes to be found are in Democrat-controlled districts, we're 4/10 of a point down. Recounts hardly ever change anything. If in fact we can keep it above the 5/10 limit, will be interesting. But I think we saw the same thing in the Trump recount. If you're counting the same ballots, it ain't going to change anything. So the Democrats now will have a very weak hold on the Senate, a 50-50 split. So Kamala Harris will probably have to spend a lot of time in the Senate now. And the next question, of course, is obviously Joe Manchin. The ball's in your court, as I tweeted this morning. In other words, you are now probably the most powerful man in the Senate because you could decide whether to vote to end the filibuster or to do what you said on Fox News sometime back a couple of months ago that you won't do it. And will you vote for West Virginia or will you vote for the Green New Deal? That's the question, Joe. So, but that's going to be a lot of pressure. There may be a lot of bribes offered to you too. So I don't know what's going to happen on that. But for the Republican side, weirdly enough, although they really are angry, if they're smart, they're probably going to tread lightly because maybe now people will understand why Chief Justice John Roberts has behaved the way he is, because his entire court fiefdom is in principle under threat. That is to say, all they have to do if they end the filibuster is just appoint four ultra left wing justices. And if people are complaining about some of Roberts' decisions, you have nothing to complain about yet, so to speak. I think perhaps people don't quite fully grasp what potentially is at stake. Just look at the rules that the House put in where you can't use words like mother and father or sister and brother. Yes. So there's a lot that we have to be very careful about because a key objective would be to try to preserve as much of normalcy as possible here, I think. And at least in the real political, legal world. The other world, I wouldn't even hesitate to speculate about. Obviously, there's going to be a big protest today in Washington. And as I said, Trump is pushing his idea of challenging the electoral results. But the problem is, let's say that every Republican swore an oath of loyalty to Donald Trump and said, I will do exactly what Donald Trump wants. It still wouldn't change the ultimate outcome because the Democrats have a majority of the House and each of the challenges would go to a separate vote. And of course, we'd lose in the House every time. And so the certified electors would then remain the certified electors. And of course, Biden wins. So this has been the 2000 election cycle has been an absolute disaster, in my opinion, for the country. As it began, if anybody's been following my videos from the earlier ones, which probably most people have not, but if you have, those that have been, will know that's been my theme all along. And my basic motivation has been the fear of the coming of the one-party state, the technological dystopia of big corporate tech titans combined with a political party, the Democrats, and a completely corrupt news media to run a kind of a soft authoritarian regime. I say soft because, I know some people have fantasies that this is going to be like Joseph Stalin or something. I don't think that's likely to happen unless, of course, a true insurrection really were to occur. But what will be done is probably follow a lot of ways they're doing things in China, actually. I mean, Alex Jones, who I'm not a bit extreme fan of, but before he was banned from YouTube, I'd occasionally watch his little 10 and 15-minute video clips on occasion, had predicted before Trump was elected that I think that Chinese-style censorship was coming to America, and of course it's definitely here now. And I can probably only put out these videos because hardly anybody's watching them. If anybody really was paying serious attention to them, I'd be censored. So, that's the way it is. But I do have what I think last I saw 28 followers. Again, like and subscribe and try to get other people to subscribe. I appreciate it. In fact, it may be more important now than before. I don't know. As we try to navigate this situation. As far as the blame game will now start in full swing. Everybody's blaming Mitch McConnell, but I would point out that in reality, I tend to feel that Trump is kind of at fault here myself. Because let's face it, when the Supreme, it was perfectly legitimate and I supported Trump all the way through, challenging all the votes that they were certified and through the appeal to the Supreme Court. But when the Supreme Court, after two decisions, clearly made it clear they weren't interested in hearing the case, they weren't really going to go into it. Realism should set in and realize that there's really no real options left. The legislatures were not going to do anything, and the Supreme Court wasn't going to do anything. So, that's time to kind of, fold. No way do I think he needs to embrace the idea that it was a legitimate election. I think there was a lot of fraud, and fraud was probably decisive in the outcome. Because, as I put, in every election that's really highly contested, there's a significant amount of Democrat fraud. That's where the fraud comes from. And so, if it's a close election, probably fraud was significant. But nevertheless, at some point, there's also the reality that that's what's going to happen. And so far, it doesn't seem like he's adapted to it too well. And of course, that leads to the following problem. When Mitch McConnell, quote, turned on him, unquote, and declared Biden the winner, obviously that set up a conflict between the two sides, which then led to a lot of things, including Trump's rejection of the bills that he himself and his team had negotiated. I think he did want a bigger stimulus check than what he got. But the point is, at that point in time, with everything as sensitive it was, wouldn't it have been smart just to sign the bills, maybe made some comments, I wish they could have been better, but that's the best we could get through, or something like that, and just shut up about it. But instead, he goes off and makes a speech demanding a $2,000 check. And remember, that's when that became a real issue. So immediately the Democrats seized upon it and actually upped the ante and actually increased the amount over what he wanted, because he was talking $200 for the adults in the family and then $600 for each child. Well, they upped it to $2,000 for everybody. That means a family of four with a combined income of $149,000 and $999 in adjusted gross income would get $8,000, even though they've been working from home on their laptop the whole time. While somebody else who is maybe a minimum wage is only getting unemployment benefits and this check. So it was never a rational way to spread the money. Politically, I think probably you'd have to say that McConnell made a strategic blunder, and when he was set up like that, not to go ahead and go along with it. But still, probably the Democrats would have still got the credit, I think, given the way it went out. And so that's my view. But at any rate, I guess now everybody may be going to get their check, huh? But they also get a big tax increase to go with it. So that's down the road here. So basically, I would say it's a lack of coordination. The fact that the Republican team can't seem to play together. It's they've ended up giving up the game. So it really comes down to now, I guess, what actually happens. We're in a position where the Democrats do have an opportunity in terms of numbers, if they have the votes, to actually seize a level of power that no party has had in the history of this country. Because they've given up on traditionalism. After all, the filibuster was always a thin reed, as I explained in my video, the nuclear option, and yet a sense of honor had held for all these decades, century, to do this. But now, things occur, so to speak. So I guess now to say Joe Manchin, I'm using him because he's the only one that spoke up on this subject. There could be others. But you realize also that here's the problem. If the Republicans do what they have to do to keep the thing from completely blowing up, um, then our hardcore supporters are going to get very angry at our own people. I mean, a retreat is one of the hardest things to execute in war after a major defeat, to prevent it from returning into a rout. Okay, and that's our problem right now. I mean, now everybody's blaming McConnell, or the McConnell people are blaming Trump. In fact, the blame's on both because they didn't coordinate. And the fact of the matter is but we need to be very careful here. We're going to have to let the Democrats win a few and not fight them too hard on a lot of things, unfortunately, or they may finally get their act together. Now, there is one other possibility. If we could recruit a Democrat in the Senate, such as perhaps Mr. Senator Joe Manchin, to join the Republican caucus, you realize then we would have our 51 votes. And so that is one way where we might be able to do something. And I don't know what the probability on that is. I mean, obviously, it'd be no real loss to him in the state of West Virginia, because I mean he could easily be reelected as a Republican there, probably easier than as a Democrat. And of course, the Green New Deal is like war against West Virginia. On the other hand, you never know. The Democrats may offer billions and billions of dollars to West Virginia in order to get him to stay in the fold. In that case, who knows what will happen. There may be other people. I don't know who else. I mean, of all people, I mean, you have Feinstein was allegedly not for ending the filibuster. Of course, she got ousted as chairman of the Judiciary Committee, or she voluntarily gave it up. Now, if she really was ousted and was really ticked off about it, but had no choice because, well, it was like either go out gracefully or go out the other way. And she chose not to use the Donald Trump approach. Perhaps she really is ticked off. It might be that other vote we might need, or there might be some other people. I don't know. I mean, I'm not that familiar with. I mean, the Democrat caucus has become increasingly left-wing, so it's very hard to know. But like I said, we're now in a year of living dangerously. There's no doubt about it. And I mean, I'm sure that Perdue will probably, if he can keep above 0.5%, pursue a recount and all the things maybe. But there is one advantage he has that Trump didn't have, and that's time. There's no real time limit on this. This could go on for months now. The presidency had a certification deadline of December the 14th, right? There is no similar thing on a Senate seat. So the fight could go on longer there, but it looks like his situation is actually more precarious than Trump's was. After all, Trump was only off by about, around 12,000-ish, I forget the exact number of votes, and his is higher. Now, there are some military ballots out, but there's also some Democrat ballots in Savannah. So, that's why I say around midnight last night, I kind of went, I could see where it's going, Okay, so at any rate, that's it for now, and I'll try to keep this up. Maybe I'm a little bit in a ticked off mood this day. I'm a little, just because of the fact that this didn't have to happen. This was very bad coordination on the Republican side. I mean, Trafalgar polls, probably one of the more accurate polls, had been clearly showing us in pretty good shape until this whole blow up about the $2,000 check, which was artificially introduced into this campaign, blindsiding the two candidates in Georgia and creating a rift within the Republican Party. And so I think, I'm just saying that a lot too much noise for no real substance ends up losing the thing. Plus, don't forget the antics of Lynn Wood and his ongoing crazy idea of not voting to show that the thing was rigged, and people saying, well, boycotting the vote will help you. Well, did it help you? I don't think so. Well, at any rate, so that's about it for now. And if you like the video, subscribe and give me a like. And if you're ticked off today, please forgive me, and maybe I'll be in a better mood in the next one.